walking alone, the streets are empty. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for regrets. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Feel like a dynamite, ready to explode right up in the sky. I need you to listen, I need you to hear, and don't show any fear. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the World of Football podcast for our first Premier League review show of the season. A lot to get through, a lot of games, a lot of talking points, some big transfer stories have happened over the course since our last show. So yeah, basically a lot to get through. This show will primarily be based on the Premier League. Since last week we did the Championship and the SPFL, so the show will be more depth into the Premier League. Obviously a lot of feedback from you guys for your last year. The show was too long last year, so this year the shows will be kept roughly the same size. So we'll be focusing on different topics of different shows. Basically different leagues and different and stuff like that throughout the season. So this one will be the Premier League based, along with, of course, some Cardiff talk. Cardiff had a horrible result at the weekend. So we start off with Reese, the co-host. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, thanks. I'm doing okay. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. And also, of course, Manchester United are playing in here in 15 minutes. So obviously, you always will be on that game against Wolves. And then on the top right, even the Rats are back surely after that performance this weekend.
I don't even know where to start after that monstrosity. If anyone's seen my video, go watch it. But it was abysmal. Like some of the worst defending I've ever seen. But that's another story. Thanks for having me on.
Right, so this show can be Premier League based. Premier League returned on Friday night. And I think it was a very good opening Premier League weekend. Obviously, I enjoyed pretty much all the matches that took place. And I think all the televised games, maybe other than the one on Friday night, were all really good, really great, really good watches. So let's start off with. This for me started off with the shock of the weekend, and that was Newcastle not only beating Aston Villa but absolutely destroying Aston Villa. Obviously, you know, a lot of praise has been spoken about the two managers, these two teams, the two setups of Eddie Howe and Unai Emery. You know, Aston Villa having a really good transfer window, Newcastle having probably an exceptional transfer window. Yet Aston Villa went to Newcastle, and maybe other than the first 20 minutes where Philip and Pete didn't score a goal and they got one each after that, they just got destroyed by Callum Wilson, Isaac, Tonali, Harvey Barnes. Anthony Gordon even probably had one of the better games in his career. Reece, what went wrong for Unai Emery and Aston Villa? You know, a lot of positivity going into the season. Unai Emery is a tactical genius, yet Villa capitulated after they went 1-8 and just got absolutely destroyed on the counter attack with the long balls in behind our high line throughout the whole game.
I don't really think it was capitulation. In all fairness, I don't think it was capitulation. No, I don't think it's capitulation at all. I think there was few other sides that capitulated at the weekend. Villa weren't one of them. I just think purely it was quality at the time just got the better of the advantage and took their chances, whereas Villa didn't. Villa had a great opportunity to score from it, but I'm not going to say it was capitulation at all. I don't think Villa capitulated at all. I think Newcastle just on the day were better. I think that's exactly what happened at the end for me. I thought especially as well, like Newcastle were just more controlling of the possession where it mattered as well, whereas Villa weren't. End of the day, you take the opportunity to present to you. I don't think that was a capitulation at all.
I think it was though, because you know they were in the game at 1-each. They missed a really good chance to go 2-1 up for Ollie Watkins, and then after that they stopped doing everything they were doing well. You know, they were getting balls were going in behind them. The back four were constantly making mistakes. I'm sure. I can't remember his name, but I think it was the third goal for Isaac second. You know, he has the ball in his possession, completely loses track of it, and that's what's happened for Isaac to make it 3-1. You can't justify that mistakes, and I think what happened
not justifying them. I'm just saying that it was clear quality on the day that really showed its strength as well.
That third goal was not quality. That was Aston Villa's completely own doing, and also the whole that third goal wouldn't have happened if Aston Villa's line was not ridiculously high. You don't go to St James's Park with Isaac and Anthony Gordon in the front three and play a ridiculously high line and just have balls constantly going in behind you where you're scrambling back and then mistakes like that happen. I think that's when you were slightly wrong.
I think the fact is that they actually tried to bring a different means of play against Newcastle. Like, I think one thing that teams a lot didn't do last year is actually play against them. Villa actually tried to play against them, and they actually tried to play a very offensive-minded game. Like, at the end of the day, like, people moan that teams don't go and play Man City. People moan that teams didn't play against that Liverpool team that won the league a couple of years ago. People used to moan that nobody played against Man United except for Chelsea and Arsenal. So I'm like, we have to give that same level of comment. Like, what are we going to do? We're all going to be afraid of Newcastle United now? I don't think so. Like, you've got to take them on. And I think Villa did. The problem is Villa on the day, quality overran them.
I understand taking teams on at home, right? You know, if it's at Villa Park or whatever, I understand taking teams on at home. Going away it's the first game of the season. The Newcastle crowd were so up for it. You know, the players were up for it. I just think you have to be. You know, you need to have common sense. I understand. Yes, you want to go and you want to attack, and you also want to put your stamp on, but at the same time, losing 5-1 on the opening game of the season because of your really ridiculous tactics. I wouldn't say ridiculous tactics, but
I think that's a bit harsh. I think that's harsh calling it.
It's risky though. You know, it is risky, and It's probably more the fact he didn't change it. Like even after going 2-1 down, he stuck with doing the same thing, and it clearly wasn't.
I agree with that though. I agree with him not changing up because when you look at it, even though it was still 2-1 at the time, it was still an even game. At that point, even though it only just went 2-1, it was still an even match. I agree with Unai Emery. I wouldn't have changed tactics. I would have changed it 3-1. But
yeah, but him
2-1, no.
Them losing 5-1.
Aye, but to be
The
fair,
second
no,
half they were non-existent. They were non-existent in that second half. Nick
aye, neither were.
had a
We were neither existent against Liverpool. Reflection, like in the game that we don't speak of, we were non-existent in either half. Newcastle outplayed us as well in the league game after we beat them in the cup final. Like they were better than us, we were non-existent. So I'm actually going to defend Villa using my own club as an example, where in circumstances you shouldn't be changing tactics straight away unless you are absolute like Tottenham. Like Tottenham made a mistake under their previous the guy that got binned for Mason Ryan or whatever it was. Like he went in.
Not the wrestler.
Well, you know who I meant. Like he went in. Ryan Mason, flip it round. There you go. He went. He went into that game though, and he completely changed the Spurs dynamic. Spurs were used to playing that entire season a 3-4-2-1, and he went into the game playing a 4-3-3. The Spurs players weren't conditioned to play a back four. You look at them, they were all over the place positionally, and Newcastle were 3-4-0 up in the first 20 minutes. I look at it and I think Unai Emery was right to play his tactics. I mean, I look at how they played against Newcastle, and I don't think Villa were bad up until the third goal. The third goal was lazy defending. The fourth and fifth goal, that isn't down to bad defending. That fourth and fifth goal was purely because Newcastle were in full steam, full control, full confidence. You're already run the 3-1. You do what any other team does. If you want to be high up the league and you're challenging, you go for more. That's exactly what they did. So I don't think in any shape or form were Villa's tactics wrong by Unai Emery, or do I think that his tactics, he should have changed them straight away? I think if you change your tactics straight away, you failed as a manager. You've got to persist as much as you can. If at that point it really is out of your control and you have to change up, then change then. But I wouldn't be changing at 2-1. I agree with Julio. They were still in the game. They had a couple of good chances as well before that third Newcastle goal. They had a very good couple of chances. And I said it last year about Ollie Watkins. I like Ollie Watkins as a player, but at times he reminds me of Danny Welbeck. I said about him where he's finishing, where he can score the really difficult chances, but when it's really easy, he hides. He bottles it. He done that a lot towards the end of the second half of the season. A lot of people are overlooking that. He was still getting good numbers, but there was opportunities where he would have had 4 or 5 goals in one game, I think it was. He didn't score a single goal. So I look at it and I'm thinking, you've got to be mindful about certain things. It's not always about tactics. It's about players on the day as well. And I look at it and I don't think Unai Emery got it initially wrong. I think the Villa players really just got overrun. And I'll say this as well. The injury to Tyrone Mings has hurt them massively, because I don't think Diego Carlos is 100% fit to go. I don't think he's 100% fit by looking by his performances like recently. Pau Torres is a great signing for them, but it's quite clear that they need that steel in defence. It wouldn't surprise me if they go back in for a centre-back to sign one, like whoever they look at. They need another centre-back now because of this Tyrone Mings ACL injury. They're not going to get a good centre-back between now and September 1st. There's no way. People look at them and go, you've lost your club captain. They are going to charge them premium prices now. So if I was Villa, I'd be very careful. I would be very careful. But me, that's my personal opinion. I disagree with you, but that's what the podcast is all about. But I don't think Unai Emery got it wrong. I think he got it spot on. The problem is they got overrun. They got overrun by a team who've come into their second full season under their manager, and they looked firmly in control. After the Diaby goal, it was 95% Newcastle, 5% Villa, and that 5% Villa had 2 chances. They didn't take them. That's my personal opinion.
What do you think, Nathan?
I have to agree with Reese on this one. I mean, when you look at the stats within the game, it's such an even match. Like basically equal possession, equal amount of shots. And you've got to look at it this way. Reese is exactly right. When you aspect it with Aston Villa were completely overrun. And I'd say that the main issue with it was the way that they were overrun in midfield. I think Louis
Well, hand to
Kamara-
Jacob Ramsey.
Exactly.
Is he injured? Like, I don't know, but I didn't like. I was shocked. I was shocked he didn't start. I was like, how can you not start your most important? I think he's their best midfielder apart from Douglas Luiz. I like Tielemans, but I think even though that's a great free signing, Jacob Ramsey should have started. I was quite sceptical on that one. I've got the game on the background, so I'll be waiting for kickoff. But don't worry, I'll keep you updated on that one.
Yeah, because when he bought Tielemans on in the second half, I thought, okay, this is a really good move here. I believe it was just after the third goal, so I was like, okay, maybe Aston Villa can build up on their momentum after the first half. Because at this point, I was thinking, right, this could be like Norwich versus Southampton in the Championship, and it's just going to be a goal fest where it's just goal, 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 counter-attack, 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 which it seemed like it was going to be, especially in the first half as well. But I mean, just the quality of Newcastle in the end, and they're going to be a team to be absolutely petrified of this season. They just completely, well, at the end of the day, when you bring on the likes of Philippe Coutinho and also bring on Tielemans, they just kept on overrunning midfield. They need to absolutely jam it out, and they didn't do it. And then ultimately brought in the likes of Pau Torres, bringing him in. Obviously, he had to come in for Tyrone Mings, but bringing off the likes of McGinn and Leon Bailey for the likes of Jadon Philogene. I mean, I love Philogene as a player. He's probably one of the most underrated players in that Aston Villa team. However, in that scenario,
shouldn't be starting.
Shouldn't be starting. However, I wouldn't have taken off your likes of your McGinns or your Leon Baileys and pushed out more wingers into the side. I would have jammed out that midfield, left the likes of Ollie Watkins to work their magic, because ultimately that's what did cost them in the end, and just allowed Newcastle to go free flowing. But I wouldn't be too nervous as Villa fans, just because of the way that Newcastle played in that one. And we know that they're going to be strong throughout this season. And ultimately, if they keep playing like that, like my old man's literally putting them second at the moment. And that just goes to show.
Damn. Just like, you know, the teams are actually coming up the field just now anyway, so that's not so bad. I find this very interesting. Yeah, Marcus Rashford is the striker.
I think I'll just say no, I think this will be a straight game for United. I cannot see Wolves hold them much of a. I know. Maybe but
there's a few things that I find interesting. One, it's a front three of Anthony, Garnacho, and Rashford, so it's a lot more of the pace. It's more pace in there. I think Sancho, I still would have started Sancho. And also, Fernandes is starting in the 10 role. Mason Mount is starting in the 8 position. I thought Fernandes would have played deeper, personally. I thought I would have played Mount ahead of him in the 10 role. I find it very interesting, but I agree with that comment. It was the same injury as Martinez, the broken metatarsal. The Boys comment about you have to play a high-energy ball-winning midfielder. Yeah, that for me is the likes of John McGinn and funnily enough, Douglas Luiz.
Yeah, you take them off and put Coutinho and Philogene on.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of glad. Oh, hold on, no, I was wrong. He's actually playing a 4-3-3. He's playing Fernandes and Mount as 2-8s. Okay, maybe I can get some horny football this year. Nice. I will say, coming back to something there that Nathan was saying about ball-winning midfielders, I looked at that whole Villa shape and I liked what Unai Emery did, but it didn't feel like an Unai Emery setup. You know what I mean? Like it felt like something was missing. It felt like just maybe one thing. I don't know. I can't put a finger on it, but I think one thing may have been missing.
All right, moving on to the next game, we're going to talk about our firstly promoted side. That was Luton Town going to Brighton. They lost 4-1. Luton's lineup. Honestly, you looked at their lineup. There was no real quality in that lineup, and they were.
I disagree with that.
there was no real quality in that.
They had quality. They had world beaters. They had the famous Luton time. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Like it was in an experienced team. They were quality, and they went to Brighton and they tried. They scored a goal, but they were very naive and very easy to play against. I think Brighton were cutting through them pretty much every tackle they went.
They did what Burnley did. If we're gonna come at Luton's performance, I think we've got to all three promoted clubs at the same time. They all did the same thing and they got the exact same result. They got drubbed. But I actually look at see how all three teams at the weekend. I said it before we've done our prediction stream, and I'll stand by again. The score might have finished 4-1, but I actually think the worst of the three teams was still Burnley. I think Burnley were still worse.
I gotta agree with that in an aspect, because I do think that Sheffield United...
not because Luton scored. That's why I'm saying Burnley were worse.
I do have to say it, and I know it's going to be a completely insanity saying coming out of this, but I actually think that Luton were the best performing promoted side out of the entire three of them.
I agree.
I thought the Palace, even though they did get that solid victory against Sheffield United, I wasn't too impressed with either side, and then in particular, I wasn't impressed with Sheffield United. And then obviously, absolutely.
I think
Burnley weren't good.
Burnley were a complete suicide watch. Like if you watch that Burnley game as a Burnley fan, if any Burnley fan was watching that game with their eyes open, I feel sorry for them because I would have.
The worst thing happened to Burnley that possibly could happen. That was Haaland scoring within the first 5 minutes. That's the worst thing that could happen to them.
I said they would get smashed. I said it literally on last week's show. They were going to get absolutely brutalised. I mean, I predicted 5-1, but you look at that game and it should have been 6 or 7. I mean, I'd like to know what Dan's opinion was of that game, because that was a horrible performance by Luton. By Burnley. The reason why I think it was so bad as well is when every time they had the ball, they done exactly what Huddersfield did. When Huddersfield were up the first time, that first season, they wanted to play they were playing fucking FIFA Street. Well, we're going to play fancy, beautiful football. I'm sorry, but you're playing against the best fucking team it pains me to say, but you're playing the currently the best team in world football, and you're trying to play them off the park. Are you fucking insane? I mean, I'm not. I know I might sound a little bit hypocritical saying, well, but you said about teams going to play Newcastle. People should be playing. People should be playing against Man City. Aye, you play against City, but you play to your strengths. Burnley tried to fucking claim they were prime Burnalona, the way they were playing. It was really poor, and I was no surprised they were a goal down the first 5 minutes, because if it was anybody else, I think they would have been off a little bit lucky.
I do have to say as well, look, comparing the two squads and the way that it was set up, it seems like, I don't know whether it's to do with company or the fact that they have lost both Scott Twine and Nathan Taylor, who are absolutely instrumental in getting them up, but they seemed a mile away from how they were playing and how they were performing in the Championship. I got to be honest, if that Championship team towards the end of last season was playing against Manchester City, it would have been 1 or 2-0.
Yeah, because they would have had a little bit more
taken it into the game properly, not just throwing it out thinking, let's do the Swansea approach, as I will say it. I know it's going to be biased and I'll get all the comments in, but I don't care. This is actual factual. Go for the Swansea approach. As long as we play pretty football, we'll be all right. It doesn't matter if we get stuffed 10-0. We had 600 passes. We had 40 million % possession. Burnley
the stats.
Do it, and we're terrible.
I think you can check the stats, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Burnley only had maybe 300 passes less than City the whole game.
Exactly.
I think City had 670, Burnley had about 340.
And the thing you've got to bear in mind as well is no wonder they were getting absolutely trounced, because they averaged about 65% possession last season.
Yeah.
When you drop to that low, and especially company teams, he does not know how to play the counter.
The thing I would say,
it was a non-starter.
That's what will harm him.
The thing I would say, and I think Nathan brings up a good point, I think for all three of the promoted sides this year, you know, they're going from, because all three, well, maybe Luton Town aside, Luton Town have always been kind of a counter-attack team, but in terms of Burnley and Sheffield United under Heckingbottom, you know, last year in the Championship they dominated possession. They had the high
Not
passes.
so much Sheffield United, I'd say, because I saw some absolutely dire performances from them.
But Sheffield United are not a great, you know, they tried, is what I'm saying. It's what, you know, even if their execution was not there, it's what they wanted to do, and. You know, so coming into the Premier League and coming into the Premier League, like
there's Highland. Just saying, there's Highland on screen.
Vincent Kompany can't obviously come into the Premier League and play this possession-based football. He has to change, you know, not just a tiny bit. He has to change the whole game plan. He needs to change the formation, change off the shape ball, change what to do on the ball. You know, they can't just pass the ball around the back when they get it. They have to kind of kick it long and play for these second. You know, that's, I think, what's going to be difficult. And you know, I think maybe that's why with the promoted teams, you maybe take it with a pinch of salt, because they are trying to adapt. You know, I think, for example, I think Luton Town's shape and tactics were all completely wrong against Brighton. You know, they didn't try and sit back and try and hold Brighton to anything. They kind of went out and
they all played the same. They all played the same method of approach. I think the one that really was quite scary was Sheffield. Sheffield were slow. They were slow without.
They all attacked the game. All their games the same as they were, like it was a Championship team, and I think that's what hit them all in the ass. You know, like Vincent Kompany didn't go out to try and stop Man City. He tried to go to a Man City, and they got completely destroyed for it. I think he
went out and didn't assimilate to his approach, and that is something I was saying there. Obviously, before you went and got your dinner, it's like you can take them on, but you've got to take them on in the right manner. And I think Burnley will have games where this year they'll actually be in one or two game weeks. They'll probably be one of the best teams of the week because they'll wipe a team away. They'll probably I will say this like now. Obviously, since it's our game tonight, since the end of match day 1, I reckon maybe 2 or 3 times this year Burnley will have a 4-0 win. I reckon 2 or 3 times this Premier League season they will have a minimum of 2 or 3 times where they win 4-0, because they will bully teams off the pitch. They will dominate the possession. They'll actually hold their positions better in their shape, and they'll score goals. But it's games like these where they have to be mindful, and you can't always play the same. And I think that's something Vincent Kompany doesn't know. And I will say this as well, because it happened at the weekend. We'll come to them on very soon. Ange Postecoglou will have the same problem with Tottenham, because it happened to Tottenham as well against Brentford.
I completely agree, and I'm going to add it to the facts with what we said as well. I guarantee you now that those 2 4-0 victories are going to come against Wolves, Crystal Palace, and also Sheffield United, with the way that each of them set up this weekend.
And they'll draw both times against Luton.
I don't know. I can see actually Luton nicking a win against them, just like with their performance last season. But another aspect to that as well, as much as I love Postecoglou as a manager, Reece will know the exact reason why. I can also see Burnley getting a solid victory over Tottenham with the setup.
They'll get in the space behind them. Oh, that was a poor corner by us. That was shite.
Just one thing to say about, I don't know if you will agree with me on this, right? I can understand, okay, why Sheffield United attacked the game the way they did, because they were at home. You know, Sheffield United do have a good home crowd. They have a good home record from when they were last in the Premier League. And they were playing against Crystal Palace, who, in terms of their squad, they have a good squad, but under Roy Hodgson, they're not going to have their full potential because Roy Hodgson will not let them.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I do apologize. My internet's going to be bad all day. But, like, Crystal Palace are not going to have their full potential under Roy Hodgson, because Roy Hodgson will never let them play full expand football, which is fine. All right, he's out to keep them in the Premier League. So I can understand why Sheffield United attacked the game a little bit more. But what I would say is, if that was Burnley, if that was like a Burnley or a Bournemouth in that situation, I think they would have bet Crystal Palace. I just think Sheffield United have zero quality in that team, because they've sold all their best players and they've not replaced them with anyone. And I feel like that's just what I feel like. If they had any sort of bet, if they had even a couple of their players from last year, they would have bet Crystal Palace that game, because Crystal Palace weren't particularly great themselves.
I agree in a way on that. However, they have actually just signed Gustavo Hamer, which, especially coming in from the Championship and building on such a great. Go on.
He won't work. I don't think he'll work at all in the Prem.
Explain that, especially with the in contrasting styles that he was playing under Mark Robbins and coming into a Heckingbottom side. How do you think that'll be the case? One of the things I will say is the setup of the way that Sheffield United have gone. I mean, if you look at the midfield with the likes of Basham and Oliver Norwood, oh boy, that is defensive.
You're not getting anything. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but last year he didn't set up any goals for himself. Every goal he pretty much scored last year was created for him. He doesn't create for himself. He is going to have to learn that quickly, and he isn't particularly young either. Am I right? He's what, mid-20s to late 20s, something like
20s.
that. So he's pushing on, and if he cannot set up, if he doesn't have a striker to create for himself, then he is in massive trouble. That's why I don't think he is going to cope in the Prem. I think he'll be like Mitrovic the first time. Didn't know a goal from a barn door.
If you think Mitrovic was bad that first season, remember what he was like at Newcastle.
Oh, that was awful.
Car crash waiting to happen. That was.
Yeah, that was truly bold.
But I just want to touch base on Luton very quickly as well. Mm-hmm. I think the quality that they had playing balls through into the likes of, I thought Chong had a good game. Ryan Giles was excellent. And then Adebayo and Carlton Morris held up really well.
Mm-hmm.
For me, they are going to be very similar to that Blackpool team of 2010-11. However, if they just need to keep it consistent. And to be honest, I think that with playing Brighton first game of the season, and in particular how good that performance was, in particular from João Pedro and also Matoma, who had absolutely spectacular games, and also Estupiñán I thought was absolutely superb as well. I think it does show Luton in a little bit of a bad light, but as they tend to develop and get some more of these teams, especially ones who will be really complacent going into it, thinking, "Oh, it's only Luton, we're going to destroy them," and then get completely overrun with the amazing quality in the wing backs. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that 100%.
I still think they'll finish bottom. No, I think Paul Heckingbottom will get sacked first. But I will. What I will say about Paul Heckingbottom, if he does get sacked, I will feel slightly bad for him because it's not really his fault entirely. Because
I won't.
I know you because he's a former Hibs manager. The bold and never to say someone.
To be fair, I didn't like him as a player either.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's true because you need as much depth as you can in the Premier League. To be fair.
Oh yeah, that's true. But to be fair though, you can get away with a 25-man squad if your entire squad's actually good. But I'll say this, like in terms of United really need to fix up a little bit, although Anthony's been very effective on that right-hand side.
Just hearing that all day.
We've got another corner. This is our third corner of the game, 12 minutes in. I'll say this as well. This is another thing as well that takes the cake is when I look at who's going to be sacked first, I still have a sneaky suspicion that it could end up being Vincent Kompany. I don't want any man. I actually would like a Premier League season where no manager actually gets sacked, but that's never going to happen. But I think if things don't change, he could well be the case because the way he played against Man City was suicide. And if he does that against United, if he does against Liverpool, if he does against if he does against Newcastle, like, I mean, I don't like Newcastle, but I think Newcastle would tear them a new arsehole and split them sideways. But I actually wonder as well how they do against Arsenal, especially this young Arsenal team. Like they played really well at the weekend as well. I just think I get your point about Luton Town potentially finishing bottom, but I was more convinced by Luton than I was Burnley or Sheffield. I was just more convinced by them, not because they scored, but because they were active in trying to find their goal. Burnley didn't.
Here's a question I have, and you could probably split this into three categories as well.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of your bottom three clubs, and I think there's only one way going for it, unless Wolves have an absolutely stinky season, which I'm already predicting anyway. But are we going to see the first team that gets a lower points total than Huddersfield? All of you go remember that Premier League season where they were the second worst team in Premier League history? Or are we going to even potentially see a rival to Derby? with that performance, or
I think it'll
is he going to
be.
hover a while?
I think it'll be the equivalent of Sheffield United. Pardon the pun. Except I hope that if they actually don't win a game all season, then they eventually win one. It's not against Man United this time. But I think you're going to get as close to Sheffield if they continuously play as bad as they did. I think Newcastle, I think Burnley and Luton and all that will get a good amount of points, but just that first game, it gave me an ick. It just gave me a really poor ick, and I'd like for Kompany to do something, but fuck knows, like he has to be more averse in his tactics for who they've got next.
Well, let's move. So we've covered all three of the promotion teams basically. So we'll move on to the next team, and I think this is a team that actually had a good opening weekend. Maybe surprised a few people. Bournemouth getting against West Ham was actually quite impressed with Bournemouth. To be fair to them, I know. I think all of us had a bit of skepticism about how Bournemouth were going to be, but I wasn't.
I wasn't because I rate their manager.
Yeah,
I don't
know. I don't know much about him. And then after what people were saying, I figure back and looked at his Rio for the results in the last 3 seasons. He played a really good 4-2-3-1 attacking system. He never really got beat by the bigger teams in La Liga badly. He always kept them in a competitive game, got some good results against Real Madrid at home too.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I watched this. I went back and watched the full game against West Ham, and yeah, honestly, considering he doesn't have that much talent in that Bournemouth team, they just look really well gelled. They were pressing well. They deserved to win the game. I don't think West Ham deserved a point out of that game. I don't think West Ham offered very much at all. Probably obviously still a transition without Declan Rice in the middle of the field. Yeah, but what do you guys think? I think Bournemouth deserved to win it, but yeah, I think Bournemouth definitely. I'll hold my hands up, right? I'll hold my hands up and say maybe if this is a sign of things to come, sacking Gary O'Neill was the right decision for Arrow.
I think it was 100% the right decision because Gary O'Neill persisting with him till the end of the season in that caretaker role was a really good option because he knew the squad well and knew how to get the best out of the players. However, moving them forward and progressing them up the Premier League, and I keep saying it, and I'll say it every single stream that we do. Bournemouth have a very good Premier League squad considering what they have. Solanke has come good ultimately after coming back up. You also have Di Brooks, who I thought had a very good game. Philip Billing is always fantastic.
Ooh, what?
Max Aaron's coming in as well.
Yeah, that's a good signing.
Also a good signing from Norwich.
And they activated the Tyler Adams release clause today,
which is a very good move as well to bolster in the midfield. Maybe dropping back into a 4-3-3. Instead of Ryan Christie and using Tyler Adams, who we all know is great going forward as well. The thing I will say very quickly about West Ham is we all know that James Ward-Prowse is signed today. However, with the system that they have played against Bournemouth, I don't actually see where he fits into that team or who's going to be dropped because I think it'll have more of a negative detrimental impact than a positive one. And really, the area that they need to focus on is at left back, and also they need another centre back in West Ham because ultimately, where Ward-Prowse comes in, he needs to be further up the pitch. I mean, you've got Souček and Paqueta at the in sort of the defensive midfielder role, but with the way that Fornals has been playing, I don't see how it fits.
I'm going to interrupt you there, Nathan, quickly. Will Man City get that West Ham midfielder? Obviously,
Lucas Paqueta.
Yeah, City are pushing hard for him. So
I don't think they will.
Well, considering Chelsea are close to signing Michael Olise, I think so. I think if City do sign Lucas Paqueta, they've pretty much ensured that Bernardo Silva can leave next year. Like they've cemented their whole damn fate if they sign Lucas Paqueta. Like that'd be a great move for him. I think he's quality. He was shit AC Milan. I'll say that. Hold my hands up. He was shit AC Milan because they played him in the wrong system. But since Lyon, he's been absolutely fantastic, and it's crazy that David Moyes has a quality player like him, and he doesn't use him the way he should be. I think they are in serious trouble. West Ham, I don't know what David Moyes' intentions is going to be. I still think he should have went at the end of the season.
Another question I have, just leading on, sorry to interrupt, Josh, leading on from what Reece said, is David Moyes going to last the whole season? Because in my eyes, he's definitely going at the end of the year.
Before you answer that, it kind of links into Nathan's question to before what I only ask. Are West Ham making panic buys now? Are they just saying, right, this player's available, pay whatever we need, take him and go? Because they've left it so late, are they now panic buying?
I'll answer both questions then. So, question from Nathan there about will David Moyes last the whole season? I will be surprised if he lasts half a season, because I'm wary. I think he should have left at his highest, which was winning that European trophy. Let someone else come in and let someone else take them forward. I think, funnily enough, they could have got Lopetegui. He's walked from Wolves. It's a stronger set for him. It's slightly more to the club. I think he could have went there, especially in London. I think he'd enjoy London a lot more. Or something like that. I think they need to look at something. It wouldn't surprise me if they tried to go crazy and get a Rafael Benitez as well, although that would really question their whole intent of playing more exciting football. I don't think I think they're more effective football now than playing good football. And to answer Josh's question about are they panic signings, no. I think Ward-Prowse is a smart signing for them. I think that's a good move. It gives them an element of control from set pieces that they don't necessarily have apart from Paqueta. I think their left back is particularly good at set pieces, but apart from that, they don't have anybody else. I think I still think they want Maguire, although they're quite sceptical about is he available? Are they sceptical about the value? Are they going to get him? I still think they should sign him because they need a centre back in there. I think McTominay gives them something as well, a lot of extra energy to their team. It's that similar level, but there's less pressure. He can try and flourish himself potentially. I think that would be a reasonably good fit, McTominay at West Ham. But I don't think they're panic buying. I think the problem is they're being very tight about. They've mugged clubs off all summer for Declan Rice. Now they're starting to realise what it feels like when they're trying to sign players they want, and they're getting told, no, this is what you've got to spend. So I don't think they're panic buying. I think they're just realising the error of their ways, and it'll be the exact same next season when Brighton start to cough up big money, because I guarantee next year Brighton will not sign a gem. Brighton will go big. And they'll realise after mugging clubs off, you cannot expect any other football club to treat you differently if you're selling a player that's for 115 million when he's not even worth 115 million.
And I'm just going to be quick on this aspect as well. I think it also didn't help West Ham that the Rice saga dragged on for so long as well. I mean, we were like, oh, is he going to sign? We had Fabrizio Romano say he would go about 20 times. Is he going to Man United? We knew the links were strong with Arsenal, but it just seemed to drag out forever. And that's when the uncertainty starts, because what if the deal fell through? What if he failed a medical in some bizarre aspects, which they probably hoping for?
I think they were banking on it. I think they were banking on something. Yeah. I don't think they were prepared. I think they wanted Ward-Prowse anyway, but I don't think they were prepared for what was to come. And I agree that Declan Rice deal dragged on too much. And as well, in that case, I also blame Arsenal. For taking too long to cough up what they wanted, then eventually they done it. I'm like, if you want a player that much, just sign him. I mean, look at Villa. Villa wanted Diaby a couple of days later. Diaby's a record signing.
See,
get over with.
Well, almost here on the subspec. Do we think Maguire being on the bench means anything for United tonight, or is that just to fill a gap?
I think he's there because, for one, he isn't bad as a bench option. He shouldn't be starting, but I'd rather be Lindelof as first choice. But Maguire's there anyway. But I think we are in the motions where we are going to sell him, and it's going to be about 30-odd million or something, which isn't actually too bad.
The other clue that you got to put in there as well is the fact that he's been stripped from the captaincy. I mean, that just goes to show, not only that, we all knew it was going to happen because of how shocking he's been, especially as a club captain. However, that's another sign that A, you're not going to be the first choice, and B, you're going to probably be out of the door So
Yeah.
he's either going to be a bench option, the next Phil Jones, or he's going to be out for 30 million, in particular to West Ham.
Yeah.
Next team we're going to jump to Forest and Arsenal. I'm going to be honest. I think it's a difficult one because
I was technically right about this game, even though it wasn't the same scoreline I predicted. I was technically right about this game.
I know you guys obviously we've had our agreements and disagreements, but the way I see this game, hopefully my internet doesn't damn me when I'm trying to explain this. I think Arsenal got lucky with the way the chances fell to them, because I think Forest did incredibly well to stop Arsenal from doing anything. Like that second half, like what did Arsenal really do? They did jack shit. They did nothing. And I think they got two. Saka's goal was a wonder goal. Like no one's saving that. That's just Saka just put off some incredible quality.
I mean, I'd save it.
And the first goal, I think, just was kind of slightly lucky how. I think it was slightly lucky how the ball kind of just ricocheted around the box. But like Arteta's tactics were bizarre. Like Thomas Partey at right back, like that was ridiculously stupid. I don't know what.
He was playing. He's just doing what Man City do. He's just playing an inverted right back. I mean, totally nonchalant, totally not copying his mental.
Kai Havertz, a striker. We all know Kai Havertz, a striker, does not work. We know that from the Chelsea days. And other than that, like Arsenal were not fluid. They weren't that great. He's better where Odegaard would play. He's being forced to play in a different position because of Odegaard.
I know I said on our prediction stream about Arsenal that Havertz shouldn't play as a striker because obviously he's more of a 10 or whatever. But the only time he plays well as a striker is when he plays for Germany because he's got runners around him and he's got a number 10 behind him that'll actually feed the ball. Arsenal were set up like that, but Arsenal didn't work to his strengths. They only played to Saka's strengths. Yeah. I'm like, if you're going to play to Saka's strengths, then just put Saka through the middle then. So Havertz on the right-hand side.
This game would have been gone. This game between Arsenal and Forest would be completely different if Brendan Johnson put away that chance in the early on when there was that dodgy back pass. He was 1-on-1 with Ramsdale and he skied it. If he scored that, I honestly seen Forest get a point out of that game. But they were, I don't think Forest, in terms of offensively, Forest didn't do enough to win the game. But defensively, they did more than enough to get a draw to that game.
I agree, and I'm just going to say this as well. That was terrible defending there. Cunha just ran through our whole defence on his own. Sarabia should have scored. It should have been 1-0 Wolves. I'll say that honest comment. That should have been 1-0 Wolves in my opinion. But no, I'll give you credit on that. But I said it last week on last week's show. I think I said 3-2 Arsenal. I said it would just be a lucky. I said it'd be a lucky result. It was lucky. Arsenal weren't that good. Like Forest were impressive last week the weekend, and I was like, this should have finished a draw. But in retrospect, again, they just didn't click. Didn't click. And yeah, I agree, Helen. Like Sancho should be playing. Garnacho's he has not had any opportunity in this game. He keeps getting caught out. I feel sorry for him, but
another thing I would like to add very quickly as well is watching the way that midfield matched up. You cannot play Odegaard and Havertz in the same team.
No, you have to have a box-to-box in there. You need a box-to-box player.
Because ultimately, I think that's what caused it to capitulate for him as well. Because where was the service to Martinelli and Saka in that game? I know that Nketiah had a solid game, but there was just nothing going for them. Rice was solid, but ultimately you need to get Partey in the middle. You need to either drop either one of Odegaard or Havertz, and then bring in a right back.
It was
Tomiyasu there, for example.
It's quite funny when you look at that game. Arsenal carbon copy were playing exactly like Liverpool. Like obviously we'll get to that game very soon, but it was carbon copy. Apart from the fact that they were actually playing a shit right back at right back compared to a midfielder right back,
and the fact they made it look worse as well.
Gakpo should not be starting as a midfielder. He looked completely lost in that midfield.
I'll come on to that game later.
But in terms of Arsenal as a whole, there is something missing there. It's their mid. We said on the prediction stream that we did that Arsenal's midfield it's heavily spent on, but it's very unbalanced. They proved our point at the weekend. They proved our point. They might have won the game, but if they play a team of similar quality, then they'll get smashed.
If I don't know if you guys are going to agree with me, but I feel like what they do miss is a proper focal point. Because Kai Havertz is not your answer for a striker throughout the whole season. And Jesus, between injury problems and not being consistent enough in goal scoring, I feel like they do just miss a really big focal point.
It's 50-50 on the way you put it. I think doing a sort of like how, for example, Manchester United, you guys brought in Wout Weghorst.
I'm just laughing at Julio's comment. Arsenal were good for 93% of the time, only to fuck up near the end. Sound familiar? Yeah, their title challenge. But yeah, you're right. Carry on about Weghorst. You're right. Carry on.
But ultimately, especially when you were playing in that system last season of sort of Rashford as a false nine, Antony overlapping, etc. But then when you needed the moment, for example, especially if you had to go a lot more direct, you had that large Wout Weghorst or sort of extremely tall target man type striker up top. And I think that's what Arsenal benefit from. Whereas if because even if they still had a type of Giroud player, I think that would sort of, especially for like the last 20 minutes of some games as well, that'll project them into getting that final goal, for example. Maybe even a lone option would be good for them. But I think in a way, that is what they're missing.
You look at us and as comparison when it comes to signing big target men, and for us to win the league, we only ever won the league once with a big target man. Maybe if you count Van Persie as a target man, then you would say two. But out of 5 league title opportunities with Van Nistelrooy, we only won once as the main target man. Like, we needed a flurry of strikers that can integrate together. And Arsenal fans always complain about playing beautiful football and all. They always mug off United for how United win league titles, but United win the league effectively by playing football. And they actually were good doing it. I look at Arsenal and I'm thinking Arsenal need a big man, but they need a flurry as well that likes to integrate. And I think even Chelsea didn't always win the league with a big target man, but at least they had players around them that would at least get them involved. And I think if you really want to have a big target man, if you don't have whatever you need behind it, like that fulcrum up front with the quality there, you're going nowhere. I say this ironically because Arteta was so hell-bent on getting rid of him. I don't see why you would make such a fuss, even though he was slightly on the decline. They still would have done better with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. I still think, even though he was on the decline, he was Lacazette. Maybe not, but they always moan about Aubameyang. I know Aubameyang was going downhill. It didn't help. Obviously, he played with Chelsea. It just didn't work. But the goals per game ratio he actually was getting before he declined was superb. 15 goals a season from Aubameyang, still good. Still 12 points. He wins you 4 games minimum with his goals. I think they need to look for another Aubameyang. And there is opportunities like that exist. Like, no, I don't. They don't need to bring Aubameyang back, but a pacey, powerful, goal-scoring striker is exactly what Arsenal have had successfully. They've had 2 top strikers of that ilk. They've had 2 of them. Aubameyang and Thierry Henry and Aubameyang are exactly what Arsenal's best periods were, with a centre forward behind them that worked really well, or creative player. Lukaku's not a striker. Lukaku's a bin man. I think.
I'm just going.
You know who's actually a good option? He's actually, funnily enough, playing us tonight, and I rate him a lot. Matheus Cunha.
Very good.
Matheus Cunha would be a great shout for Arsenal, in my opinion.
I'm just going to quickly intervene here and say that these last 15-20 minutes will also been a better team here on Old Trafford. I have 2 really good chances I've missed now. I've
said that. No, I agree that we should be behind. I did say that. like that. Mateus Cunha mugged our defence off, and Sarabia should have scored with his left foot. Like, but we are still dominating the possession though, but we haven't been effective. We haven't really done enough. But Wolves have played very well. They played well. But yeah, I feel like any cheeky bid get Cunha. They've got a good striker there.
Three more games to cover for the Premier League. Next one is the final Saturday one to cover, and that was Fulham getting a win at Goodison Park. I think we have to be honest here. Everton were
wrong
really
team won.
Yeah, Everton
wrong team won.
Everton hit the bar twice. Bert Leno made a couple of saves. I think there was a very dodgy goal that was ruled out for Everton with Bert Leno's Bert Leno. I don't think that was ever a free kick.
You know me, I hate XG, but I saw their XG. Their XG was 2.93 from 19 shots.
Let's turn the tables here. Is this the issue that Everton are going to have without having a good striker? Neil Maupay is their striker in that game. They've got this young Portuguese fella from Sporting Lisbon, but he's only 19, and they've got Calvert-Lewin who can barely stay fit.
Oh, sorry, I had a bad nasty cough.
And another thing you've got to say is, you could maybe say that Danjuma is where the goals are going to come from, but he's not even a striker for me.
He's a winger.
He's either a shadow striker, a winger, or number 10.
Yeah. They're lost.
Sean Dyche doesn't know the definition of a number 10. He does not use that in his system whatsoever.
No, and I agree with him. If he doesn't, that's the one thing I like about Sean. I particularly like about Sean Dyche, even though I'm not a fan of his football. If he doesn't use a particular type of player, he will not integrate one into his squad. If he doesn't use a number 10, you're not going to see a number 10. He's going to use box-to-box players, and he's going to see a natural holding midfielder in his team, or you're going to see two strikers with a box-to-box player and a holding player in a 4-4-2. I actually respect that from Sean Dyche. He doesn't use a number 10 because he doesn't find a number 10 in his system, especially if you're a reserve side that plays on the counter-attack very frequently. Why would you want to use a number 10? You're not going to get goals from that. You're not even going to get a creative assists from a number 10 in a system like his. Naturally, you're better going with an extra midfielder where you can just press and attack teams and just force your way through with breaking in the play in the midfield. Or you just attack outright with two strikers and you have one player who'll just pass the ball through. And that's what I see in Sean Dyche every single time. It's one or the other, but it's always going to be the same. It's compact and it's acute and it works. But when I think about it, I think at some point this season, funnily enough, Sean Dyche might eventually revert to a number 10. I think he will try just to do something, but I look at it and they didn't care. He was never going to work around because they never gave him a chance. The minute Ancelotti left, Moise Kean didn't get a single minute. He didn't get a single minute. It was all in favour of that bloody walking diva that shall never be mentioned by me ever again. His name will never be mentioned again because he absolutely sucks. Yet people actually rate this man.
Oh, Jose Sauer, fit me. Jesus.
Yeah.
He is a dodgy keeper. He is a dodgy keeper now.
I think I went from 2 years ago saying he was my keeper of the season and all that. He was in my team of the year, and then last year he was fucking pants.
Yeah, Jose Sauer is a dodgy keeper. Anyway,
he's regressed, but not like in general. Everton never gave Moise Kean an opportunity. They were more in favour of that Oompa Loompa up front with a model's haircut and a fashion sense that wouldn't even get close to the catwalk. I'm looking at it and they need something. They need a striker, and I don't even know who they actually go for. Everton. I actually haven't got a clue.
Yeah, well, they've spent a good bit of their money on. They've spent a good bit of money on this 19-year-old from Sporting Lisbon, and even though he's not a striker, they also have signed the other winger, Jack Harrison from Leeds, after Aston Villa decided not to go for him.
Jack Harrison's a decent player, but he's not going to get goals. Everton are just. I think Everton aren't preparing. It's crazy. I look at Everton's team, and it's either going to be Decore or penalties, and they are not. I don't think Everton are actually. They had a good pre-season as well, but they need to find a striker fast. I don't know where they're going to find one. I don't know.
I do feel for Everton and Sean Dyche because they actually played really, really well there at the weekend against Fulham. Like Fulham were no issue over Fulham were under Marco Silva a really good team, and I do wonder with Fulham if this whole because obviously half their team like William Mitrovic is still being negotiations on Marco Silva. You know, I do wonder if their team was a little bit unsettled with all the Saudi Arabian links happening with Fulham because a good chunk of their core.
They made a brilliant signing though.
Yeah.
Adama Traore under Marco Silva is actually a clever signing.
I do wonder if Fulham were slightly disjointed because of that, but they got the win. But if you're Everton, you're kicking yourselves because Everton did everything right but score, and it's the chances they missed. The chances they missed were honestly awful. Now, a quick question.
They've got a horrible game next week, though. They've got Aston Villa away.
A question about this game though. This isn't relating to VAR. This is relating to the actual referee decision at the time. It was a terrible decision on Bernd Leno giving that free kick, wasn't it? But the Everton player did nothing except just stand there. And then Bernd Leno jumps over him and drops the ball. That should never have been given as a free kick. Now, VAR could have done anything because the whistle was already blue. It was just a terrible decision by the referee.
Yeah, they should have played on a little bit. I think they got that horribly wrong. I think that was another one that cost a fair deal. What do you think, Nathan?
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with Reece on that one.
And me. I said the same too.
It's like that flaming meme that people are putting out there saying, "Don't make this about you." That's you, right?
Let's move on to the two Sunday games. Starting off with Brentford and Spurs. I thought this was a really good game of football. It was open. It was attacking. There was chances. I thought Brentford were fantastic. A couple of points I take away from this game. First of all, I thought the two goalkeepers looked very shaky for both sides. I know you could say maybe it's a bit of downgrade on both David Raya and Hugo Lloris, but still both keepers definitely looked a bit shaky. I thought the front three of Spurs were awful. I thought Richarlison, Son, and Kulusevski, Son, and Richarlison were non-existent.
The thing that I did notice a lot as well with that Spurs attacking line, I don't know whether they were a bit hesitant to get in the box, but Kulusevski kept running around the outside of the box with the ball. Not playing anything through. He did not know what to do with it. And I think that happened on about 3 or 4 separate occasions as well. But there's a lot of points I've got to take with. You can see that Postecoglou has got the foundations in for that side. However,
I just don't think he can play like that in the Premier League week in, week out. I think the thing that Brentford got such good success that was how quickly Brentford were going from their end of the pitch to Spurs' end of the pitch. Like Spurs were just so far pitched up, and like there's times they got away with it because if Ivan Toney was there, maybe I feel like it could have been a different story. But it's just he doesn't really play a proper hold on CDM, and I feel like they were just ridiculously open at times. And I feel like if he does that against better quality sides than Brentford, they could find themselves in trouble.
Yeah, I agree. And ultimately, if they play well, Postecoglou loves a high line. However, if they play like they did against Brentford with the high line, not playing the defensive midfielder, relying heavily on the likes of Son, Kulusevski to push up and now go in the box as we've seen, they're going to get ruined on the counter-attack, in particular to teams to Everton, to Luton, to even, you could say, your Sheffield Uniteds as well. These teams who love the counter-attack and play wing-backs are going to absolutely murder them, especially on the overlap. And that's what they got to be careful on. If Postecoglou drops it back, in particular when they're playing against a back 3 or a back 5, they may be all right. But if he stays stubborn and stays with that system, then there could be some ugly scorelines against Spurs this season.
I was just looking at that starting lineup again because I just wanted to double check their shape, but they played Skip and Bissouma as a midfield partnership, and I'm thinking
Bissouma was good. Bissouma was incredible against Brentford. To be fair, Bissouma ran the show for Spurs in that midfield.
I look at it and I'm still thinking though that I would have played either Lo Celso or Højbjerg.
in my opinion, he doesn't rate Højbjerg. I think Højbjerg's anything. It's the complete opposite player of what he likes. I think Højbjerg's too side to side, too slow. He hates those sort of.
I disagree on that. I think Højbjerg would be brilliant under him. I just think he's too afraid to give him an opportunity. I think Højbjerg's still amazing.
I can't remember who the Sky commentators were, but even the Sky commentators agreed saying Højbjerg. Apparently, Højbjerg was the midfielder for Spurs' pre-season. Højbjerg played the less minutes out of all of their midfield, which just shows he has zero intention of properly using.
I think it's stupid not to use Højbjerg because Højbjerg has always been reliable for Spurs. He's always been reliable for them, and I think Bissouma, he was good, but I think Oliver Skipp's a decent player, but he is not, for me, the right midfielder to start at Tottenham. I think they're waiting for Bentancur, but they need something else in that midfield. They really do. I think Lo Celso's decent, but there's still something missing. I know he scored as well at the weekend, but Emerson Royale is pish. I would have started Pedro Porro. I think they needed a dynamic wing back. Even though he's not a full back, I would have played him in a wing back role in a back four anyway, and just give him a license to go forward. And then you could have used. I thought Udogie was actually quite good in the left back role, and make him slightly more defensive and let Pedro Porro just bomb the wing. It's alongside Kulusevski, you actually got a dangerous partnership there. I think the centre backs were right. Romero and
Van de Ven.
I thought they were smart. I was very surprised that Romero came off so quickly though. Was that an injury or something?
Yeah, concussion, possible concussion.
Possible concussion. But that was rapid anyway. I like that response, but I don't know. There's something there.
I do like the Van de Ven Romero partnership. To be fair,
can we just appreciate for that Romero goal how good James Maddison's cross in is from that free kick? It was just precision. It was a thing of beauty. That's why James Maddison was signed for Spurs. It was incredible. I think could you imagine James Maddison putting those balls in for Harry Kane if they kept them? That would have been deadly. But here's a question for both of you, all right? I think it's clear Spurs are not going for a striker in the transfer window, right? I feel like they're just going to go with what they've got. Do you think Son or Richarlison will step up this season? Not to Harry Kane's level, but just in a general sense, could they step up and be that number 9 for Spurs?
I think if Postecoglou asks for it and gets it, I think you could see Kyogo join him at from Celtic. I still think he would want him immediately, but I agree with Julio. There's not a bad idea putting Son centrally. I think Son's pace is coming down, but he's still a good player. I like Son, even though I still hate the bollocks he done against us a couple of years ago when he faked his own death in the middle of the pitch. That pissed me off, but I still rate Son. Him as a centre forward in a Postecoglou system where they really press teams and come at them. Not gonna lie, I think that would be brilliant, and especially who they've got as wingers. Like, effectively as well, if Pedro Porro isn't who you think is a fullback, Pedro Porro could play on the right-hand side and Kulusevski could play the left wing. Porro right wing, Kulusevski left wing, Maddison 10, Son up front, or even like Richarlison as well. They've got something. I don't think Richarlison played awful, but I don't think he was there effectively.
Big shoes to fill for him. And I think it's also important to remember that Spurs, for the whole of pre-season, practice and train with Harry Kane as their number 9. So they've had like 2 days to basically get Richarlison to adapt to Richarlison's style. I don't think that was particularly easy. And I think that was
naive. That was naive from Postecoglou. That is naive from Postecoglou. He should be held accountable for that.
I completely agree, because if they thought that Harry Kane was going to stay and fit in with that system... Exactly. Considering the fact he's had a transfer request, he's handed in a transfer request last season. Of course, there's going to be no expectation for him to stay, especially considering when his contract's going to be up next year. Daniel Levy can be stupid at times, but he's not going to let him go on a free, especially when he knows he can get over 100 million out for him and bank it in his pocket.
And that's exactly what he got. Funnily enough, although 100 million, and he lost. I saw that one coming.
But, I mean, at the end of the day, it was always going to happen. And, well, really they should have been prepared with and without him. And going on to Josh's question, the thing I will say is Son for me doesn't have to step up, because if they play the system as they did, Maddison in the middle, Son on the left, Kulusevski on the right, however, they learn to push the balls into the box, which is what really cost them and something that they did not do. Richarlison has to step up as number 9 for me. If he doesn't, I can see Spurs going in for a striker in January.
Yeah. There is one other thing, though, that I took notice from this as well. There was something that interests me as well, is Maddison's a good signing for them, but no, he has to go. I like Kyogo, but I want him to leave. When you look at Postecoglou's team, it's Celtic.
Oh, rip. How about that was my internet, but Reese is getting a bit of the bad internet now. Well, we'll quickly move on while Reese gets his connection sorted out. We'll move on to the final game, which is Liverpool and Chelsea at 2 each, a 1 each score. Sorry.
Yeah, my laptop, like my monitor, decided to switch itself off. Strange. What I was saying there about Postecoglou, when you looked at his time at Celtic, he was playing a 4-3-3. He didn't play at any number 10s. Mm-hmm. They were the exact same front of carbon copy. It was a 6 and 2 8s, and obviously Hatate was a great example. I'm surprised he didn't take Hatate with him as well, because he had good wingers that were done the creative spark as well, that done all that, like Maeda, Abada, Jota. Obviously he's now Saudi Arabia, and Giakoumakis, the other one, I can't remember his name. But he had a lot of good creative options as wingers and still got goals, but for the midfield they still created a lot as well. I'm surprised they brought in a number, even though I do rate Maddison, I'm surprised they still brought in a number 10, because he didn't play with a number 10 up here. It feels to me that his style of play, it feels like, even though it's effective, it feels like he's walking away from it just to have an extra body in midfield. And I think they should play the free and use box to box. I think Maddison would be okay in a 4-3-3 role. I think it would be all right. Especially, I'd like to see Maddison in a number 8 role. I think that'd be very interesting. But I was quite baffled by the fact that they chose a number 10 when Postecoglou never once played a 10 here. It feels like he's sacrificing his style to play a more heavy system. I don't know. What do you think? That's what it felt like for me. That's what it felt like. And it's what Brentford enjoyed.
It absolutely is. And moving it, well, I know Josh wanted to move on, however, moving on ultimately. Chelsea 1, Liverpool 1. What do you sort of take of it, Reese? Because if I start with it, I think I did see some red flags from both teams in this game. I thought Liverpool had their moments in part. Chelsea looked solid in the most bit, but considering performance-wise, I think a draw was a fair result in this one. However, I think initially, as you said, in particular, with playing Cody Gakpo in midfield, the cracks are showing with Liverpool.
Yeah, they really have. I think they have they've made some good signings, but they have fumbled in the transfer market. They let so many midfielders go just to sign 2, and they lost out on they lost out on a lot of midfield quality as well. And I'm like, yes, but from taking away my bias aside here and all that, I'm just going to look at it from an observational point of view. When I look at Liverpool, first of all, you bring in Gakpo was brought in last year to play as an attacker. He wasn't brought in to play in a 4-3-3 that he then moved into a number 10 role. So there's an automatic red flag. You bring in a number 10 anyway, who played off the left last year in Szoboszlai, to play Szoboszlai as an 8. Szoboszlai didn't play as an 8 for Leipzig. He didn't play as an 8 for Salzburg. He didn't play as an 8 for Hungary. So I don't know what Jurgen Klopp's playing at. McAllister as a 6 doesn't work. He shouldn't be in a defensive role. He should be in that 8 role. I'm surprised he backed away from Trent Alexander-Arnold as a number 6 straight away. I thought he would have. It was working for. It seemed to have been working for them in pre-season. I thought he would have given it a go.
I will say, to add on to what Reese was saying, playing Trent Alexander-Arnold, and I'll say this forever, at a right back is basically playing with three players in midfield. And then if also Andrew Robertson's having a bad game, then you're left with Van Dijk and Canate. And we know how mistake-prone Van Dijk can be if he's on an off day, and then Canate can be 50-50 sometimes as well. So there's your 2 mistakes in there straight off the bat. But
I didn't like Mo Salah's attitude in the whole game. I don't think Mo Salah's attitude towards the entire game was focused. I don't think he didn't give me a focused vibe. I know if any Liverpool fans are watching this, they're going to think, "Oh, but you're being biased because you hate Liverpool." I'm like, well, no. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking they're quite poor in that sense. When he's not on it, they lack an idea, like creatively. And Mo Salah did not look interested at all in that game, and I just didn't like their whole dynamic. Their dynamic was way off. And you spoke about Chelsea red flags. Chelsea had a lot of red flags in that game as well.
I agree.
There was a lot wrong with Chelsea in that game as well. But on you go, Nathan. What do you think of?
I think with Liverpool, we have mentioned as well that another defensive midfielder option is crucially missing for them. However, if they're going to play with Szoboszlai and McAllister, they have to go to a 4-2-3-1 system, because at the moment, this midfield 3 is just going to get completely overrun. And defensively, it's not looking great. And Diogo Jota, another one, he's a false 9.
Yeah.
I know Liverpool have played that system, especially on the days of Salah, Mane, Firmino. However, for me, he's in that system. He's also not going to get the goals. If you're going to have McAllister play, or even McAllister rotated with Gakpo, playing as that number 10 with Jota just a little bit in front, or swap it, or get them rotating and taking it in turns as the false 9, with the balls coming in from Luis Diaz and also Mohamed Salah as well, then that could be another option. Alternatively from that, you could also play Trent Alexander-Arnold as sort of a Mazzala position with Szoboszlai pushing back more defensively as an alternative option, and then playing either McAllister or he's still in the 4-3-3 position, but you've got to have Trent Alexander-Arnold in the middle.
I think they need it. I said on the preview show for the season with Doug, like the prediction stream, and I said Liverpool need to go to a 4-2-3-1. Like McAllister needs to be in. McAllister needs to be in the Met Salah role. Lovely that you use the terminology. Love it. He needs to be in the box-to-box role. Szoboszlai is the trequartista they need. He is that attacking midfielder they need. You could, if they get a right back, put Trent Alexander-Arnold in the Regista role, and he can play that 6 role. You won't have to do a lot because you'll have a midfield partner around him, and you'll still have a defence working for him. But then if he has to play against the likes of City and all that, where he has to play as a right back, then that works. Because in the bigger games, at least they will rise to the occasion where he can play as a right back, and it'll be fine, minimum exposure. But in games like these, he should be given the option, like the chance to play as a defensive midfielder. I think he's got the passing attributes to do it for them. But then, essentially, Gakpo or Darwin Núñez should be their striker. Jota should go back to competing with Diaz on the left. And I don't know who they've got on the right-hand side. Not that matters anyway, but they've got Salah there. But Salah as well, like transition, like Salah's getting on. If you need to be, put Salah through the middle at times.
Harvey Elliott's the other right winger.
Well, I don't think much of him, to be honest. I don't think he's that good.
I think for another Premier League club, Harvey Elliott be all right as a midfielder. However, I'd even play him more central. He's sort of, as Reese has said, with Mo Salah type of player. But for me, as I've seen in particular with him in the Championship and with some of his recent seasons with Liverpool, I think pushing him out too much on the wing sort of isolates him.
Yeah. I think there's a making there where they can play a 4-2-3-1 effectively, but they need to do it. But they'll just moan saying, "Oh, we shouldn't be," but it's what brought Klopp to the dance like a decade ago. Like, there's no shame in going for it if you actually put players in attacking. People moan about it saying it's a defensive system. It's not. Any system's defensive if you coach defensive football. They could play an attacking 4-2-3-1 and it would genuinely be good.
Another option, Reece, that you got to put out there,
which I don't want to see anyway.
Who's the same with playing with a three at the back?
Exactly.
Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold, both wing backs.
Yeah,
playing a
it
back line,
works.
Van Dijk in the middle, as you could sort of play him as a libero and push him up the pitch a little bit, or even then
Could
when
do.
all that fails, if you bring in another defensive midfielder, even say for example a Joe Gomez pushing forwards,
I agree.
having a double midfielder format in there, so you've got your fluidity at the back, you can push your wing backs forwards whether you want to play it more narrow, and then you've got the wide players in Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold, who we know is absolutely fantastic in getting the crosses in. And then say, for example, you have a front two or two central attacking midfielders in behind a Jota or a Salah, for example. You can
I agree
then
with
sort of be really fluid and adapt to it. And I think that would benefit them more than this really strict and sort of very structured 4-3-3 that we did see against Chelsea.
Yeah, I think with so much structure, with so much structure, Liverpool didn't feel like they were playing as Liverpool. It felt really turgid. They need to have a little bit of flexibility in there. Like, that's what made them interesting. It definitely didn't look good, in my opinion. I think they need to change things up a little bit. Seeing Harry Redknapp in a Liverpool shirt honestly makes me laugh. Like, it's just so funny. Sorry, Jamie Redknapp, sorry. But like, it's just, I don't know. I just don't think. I think Jurgen, like, the same every manager. Every manager at some point has to change how they act if they want to stay in the game. Doesn't make you a bad manager. It just means you're adapting and evolving. Jurgen Klopp should go back to the 4-2-3-1. It'll actually give the opportunity for the rest of his team to be less predictable. Liverpool might have a good team, but they will get caught out a lot if they just stick to playing the same way. They will get found out. That's why City have completely changed their dynamic, and they're hard to figure out. If Liverpool want to progress this year and be up there again, unfortunately, they'll have to do the same thing. I hope they don't, because then they can suffer.
I completely agree.
Well, the final thing we need to cover then is Cardiff City losing to QPR. Go on, Nathan, all over to you. Now, just in case anybody did not hear it last week, Reece was extremely confident they would beat QPR, and if they didn't beat QPR, he would be lost for words. So it's time to find out what Nathan actually has to say to the fact that they lost to QPR at home as well.
I thought it was absolutely embarrassing. I mean, if anyone has seen the highlights, both of those goals were caused by individual errors. I'm sorry, but this is the thing that really irritates the life out of me. And this absolutely cost us in this game. Why on earth are we playing Callum O'Dowda at left back? He is a left winger. It's basically like playing Trent Alexander-Arnold if you took all the defensive skill, the remaining bit of defensive skill he has, out of his brain and put him on the left back. He got completely walked over, which caused Sinclair Armstrong to go in, tap in that goal from that mistake. I don't know whether it was Callum O'Dowda just losing confidence or just completely breaking down communication with Ibu Adams, but the manner that we conceded that goal, considering the amount of chances and the amount of corners that we had throughout that game, was just obscene. We just let them through and let them score so simply with that. I mean, they had 3 shots on target the whole game. They were completely out of it until those mistakes. It was just completely ridiculous. And then Demetrius Gutas for the second goal. I don't even know what on earth he was doing. He had so much space to go for it, and he just gets turned over by Armstrong again. Straight in, Kenneth Powell, bang, 2-0 up. It's just a complete disgrace. And I've got to say, I feel so sorry for Errol Bullitt in this game, because he had that setup absolutely perfect, minus what I've just said about Callum O'Dowda. but the players just did not play, which we have seen so many times in this Cardiff City side.
Are you really surprised for what you've seen against Leeds to what you've seen there at QPR at home?
I'm still trying to figure out the substitution before I even figure out Nathan's team.
Not so much. Just the main reason for it is I thought we were absolutely brilliant against Leeds. But that's just me saying that because of how bad Leeds were. And any bit of credit I will take against our side maintaining our amazing record up there. I will take all the positivities from that. But I saw very little difference in both the performances. Just the fact that what cost us in both the games and also A, in pre-season, and B, especially against Colchester as well. And it's been a pandemic at the club for years, is just individual errors. And this is another thing that really does annoy me as well. Errol Bullock really slammed the squad in his press conference, as he should have, which the last 5-6 Cardiff managers have been petrified to do in press conferences, when it is clearly shown that a lot of these players aren't up to standard and will make these sloppy mistakes. However, he has said that there is a mentality issue at the club, which we have known for years, just because of the amount of supporter pressure on how bad it has been over the last 5-6 years. They were nervous about going out there. They had no confidence. They were petrified in thinking we have to win this game. And we saw that in particular with certain performances. And another player I'd like to touch on, and I thought he was absolutely diabolical, was Karlan Grant. I mean, if he keeps on playing performances like that, then I will happily drive him back up to the Hawthorns, drop him off and drive back down to Cardiff. He was a joke in that game. And in fact, I don't even know why he wasn't subbed off earlier. I would have had him off at half-time. He was that bad. And when we did make those substitutions, bringing on the likes of Ruben Colwill, Ollie Tanner was a game changer. And also bringing in Keeldon Tete and Jamilu Collins to swap out with Callum O'Dowd to push him up the pitch. We seemed so much better in the last 20 minutes, but ultimately we were just way out of it. And I'm sorry, we were the better team on paper in that game. Stats showed it, but those absolutely ludicrous mistakes really cost us, and it's an absolute disgrace in the manner that we lost that game.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it just goes back to what was said earlier on about Villa. It's the exact same. You had ample opportunities and you threw everything away. It really came back to haunt you. Just saying that I'm going back to this. Just going back to our game, I actually agree now with the reason why Martinez is off. First of all, the reason he got booked in the first place was that sliding challenge.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. That was.
I definitely a yellow card, but it just shows that even though he's coming back from an injury, he's coming back in the same mentality. He's coming back as a warrior. He's not hiding away. I agree with that change. But in terms of Cardiff and the way they played the weekend, I actually watched your game, to be fair. I just think he's had so much riding for you in that first half. In the second half, it was just like the game against Leeds. He just went to sleep. He just went to sleep, and I'm like, that's what's going to come back to you your whole season if you do not get that under control. If you don't get under that in control, you're in big trouble. You can't keep throwing away leads like that. You cannot. That's twice. That's back-to-back games you threw away 2 goal leads. 3 games in a row, actually. Three, sorry.
We even did it against Colchester as well, which for a League Two season, that's even more embarrassing. But I will have to say this as well, and this has been a problem for the last 5-6 years. And in fact, I will even ask the question, since we beat you guys 2-0 at Old Trafford, when is the last time we have won a big game? Or even the players and club around have had the mentality to win a big game? And what is the reason that...
fuck off. That was horrible. We're not behind, but that was awful defending again. Like, Matheus Cunha again is exploiting our defence. Honest to God, like, I'm watching this defence. If you've not seen this, watch this right now. Like, 8 of them.
What is Luke Shaw doing?
There's one thing I don't understand. Why is our entire defence going out to the fucking left-hand side? What the fuck is going on? I don't get it.
If Wolves had that one good poacher that we all know that they need, they would be winning this game.
He's literally right there, and he just missed because the ball wasn't a good angle for him. It's Matheus Cunha. Like, our entire defence is going out to Onana's right, the left-hand side of the pitch. I'm like, what the hell's going on? That was really, but no, I mean, like, I think for you guys, it has to have been against us. You haven't won a big game since.
No, probably it was the one that Reese was it was the one that Nath wasn't that. It was the one where Nathan Flint scored that winner against Swansea in the derby. I think that's the last game.
That wasn't real. That, to be fair, that was
neither to win that.
Neither fan really gave a shit about that game as well. When you think about it, they weren't even talking about it. They just went, "Oh, it's another derby. Let's get on with it." Both teams knew they weren't interested. Like, I don't remember seeing it. We had guests on for that. Swansea fans, Cardiff fans that night. Not one of them bigged up their own game. They were more interested in the Man United game that weekend. That sums them up. Like, they were like, well, we just don't give a fuck about our derby that game. Because they knew it was going to be a shit game.
But now it's just back to as it was. But yeah, just going back to it, we haven't literally have any bit of expectation. We just fold like a deck chair. Just because the fan pressure and everything, the club doesn't know how to handle it, and they question, and you have it from the board. Why does it get so toxic off the pitch? There's your answer. There's your answer right there. I mean, I will say it both times, and in some way I don't agree with it, but I do in another way. The players were booed off both halves again.
That's going to keep going and going and going.
It's been an epidemic for the last 2-3 seasons now. All the way back to the days under Mick McCarthy, which how long ago was that now?
2.5 years.
Years ago? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when you know you're in a dire situation. But I'll get onto a question I have for you about.
I
just want to get Josh's thoughts on this.
I still want it, before you cut with Josh, I still want to understand how your chief exec or whoever can make that delusional comment about.
That's what I was going to get onto in a minute.
I just can't get out of my head. Like, I just can't. That's been on my mind all night, and I'm like, who is this guy? Who is this psychopath, the psychedelic drone?
Do you want to know one thing that is really going to blow your mind, Reese? And in fact, I'll move this forward a little bit. Mehmet Dalman, the Cardiff chief exec, was the person who helped the Glazers buy Manchester United, but decided not to go on the Man United board.
Oh, fuck. Up until a couple of days ago, I never heard of him.
Well, now you have.
Oh, sweet Jesus. What a weirdo.
I know, and that's what we have to put up with. And another thing you got to take...
That was good defending by Wolves. I'll grant them this was good defending. Anthony should have done better, though. Yosi Sa actually got in the way, though. But that was going in. That was like Anthony loved it. Like, that was going in.
Yeah, he probably should have pulled it back, actually, Anthony. But that's just unlucky, that is.
Quick chip, though. He's the EFL Woodward. Luke Shaw taking our corners really angers me.
Craig Dawson.
That was just a waste.
Craig Dawson's a good defender.
Yeah, he's a good defender. Like, if he wasn't in that position, that was 1-0 Man United.
Exactly.
I actually think this is 1-0 written all over it for either team. Wolves have been better. I think if Wolves don't get anything of this game, then I'll admit, then they can definitely feel hard done by it. But they played well. They played better than us, but we've definitely grew into the game a lot further. We've been the better team this half so far. Apart from that one chance that Wolves should have scored. Wolves should be 2 up in my. I'll be honest. We should be behind.
But the question I have for you before we go to Josh Reese is, how do you change the mentality at this club at this rate?
Lots of drugs, mate. Lots of drugs.
I'll answer it first. I think you need to have a massive, like a proper big clear out, top to bottom sort of thing, and then you just need a new bunch of players coming in with the right manager, which might be the one you have at the moment now, to be fair, because he seems like a decent guy. And I think you just need to win a big game. Like, if it's beat Swansea in a competitive game, or if it's beat one of the champion, or if it's beat one of the champ, I just feel like you need like a new squad with new ideas and to actually have belief, because it just feels like every time
a new squad. a new squad.
We just
How are
got
they going
one.
to get?
Yeah,
How are
but
they going to get? How are
We
they going to
just
get a
had
new
a new
squad?
squad the
Not
last 2 seasons.
yeah, but what I'm trying to say is,
And
I
another
just
thing
feel-
as well, we've got to add,
Julio's
Josh, we
spot-
just
Julio's
got off
spot
a
on.
2-window transfer embargo.
Julio's spot on.
yeah, but the thing is,
Like,
the board's not going to go anywhere, is it? Vincent Tan seems reluctant to go anywhere at the moment. Like I know it's so
It's
easy.
not- It's not the fact that he doesn't want to go anywhere. He is refusing to go anywhere after
Like,
multiple protests.
the reason
and
why
pressure.
the reason why I'm not saying Vincent Tan is Vincent Tan's the obvious one. So I'm trying not to point out the obvious. Yes, you need new owners, new ideas, new board members, new more money. But we've been saying that for years on this podcast. It's for me that's just the obvious, and it's just repeating the same thing Nathan says every show. And that's why I'm not saying it. I feel like Cardiff just need. There's just no belief in Cardiff. They don't go into every game thinking they can win a game. Like, no harm, but you should not be losing to QPR, who are absolutely shite.
Exactly.
And there's just no belief. Like, I think they went out against QPR and they had no belief they were going to beat QPR at home. I think it's another. I think Cardiff they need a good home record. Their home record over the last couple of seasons has been abysmal, and it shows in their attendance forms that their attendance at home is not good enough because of.
And another thing you've got to add with the attendance, and I'll throw this in now as well, is that the boycotts are still happening from stuff that happened 10 years ago. Like, just before Vincent Tan came in, we had a 5,000 waiting list. We had to expand the stadium. But ever since all of the absolute shambles has happened and that's gone through from then, I know loads of people are saying, I'm not coming back. And they've been like that in that position for like the last 5 years. And they're like, I'm not coming back until things get better. I'm not coming back until Tango's. I'm not coming back until we win matches. And it just seems like, and then you see it down the line. I haven't been to a match since pre-COVID. Another person goes, and that's one thing that's got to be cured as well. But it's just a shambles, isn't it? What were you going to further out again, Josh?
I just feel like there's so much the Cardiff need done that I just think it's gonna.
Oh, you're gone.
I think there's one other crazy thing about Cardiff that actually makes sense is, the phrase about there's too many was it chefs in the kitchen or too many cooks in the kitchen, so that. The crazy thing is Cardiff don't have any. You actually need a little bit more in that squad, but it's not just about mentality or signings or whatever, but you're not going to like this, Nathan, but I actually think your fans at times just need to get a grip. Like, I'm not saying that to sound disrespectful or nothing, or have the Cardiff fans come at me. I've got nothing against Cardiff fans. Cardiff fans are all right to me.
Exactly.
But what I mean is, I think you need to realise that it's quite clear Vincent Tan isn't going anywhere. Unfortunately, I think the fact is now that just by booing off the players isn't going to do you anything. I think your players are very much more like they need confidence. I don't think they've got any when they're being booed off for any given performance in either half. That's just my opinion, but I think your match-going fans need to just realistically just stop booing the players. I actually think it's hampering the players' confidence.
I agree.
Because I look at the way you played. If you're booing your players at halftime when they're actually winning, imagine booing them when they're actually losing, though. Like, there's.
I mean, the thing
I can understand that. I can understand booing them if you're losing, though. It means if it's a terrible performance, then I understand that. Boo them, right? But if you're generally winning, get behind them. And I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I'm not saying you do it. I've never seen you boo it or anything. But I mean, like, when I look at it, I'm thinking, like, I think your fan base is just so obsessed with getting Vincent Tan out that I think you're forgetting. I think all of your fans are just thinking your players are Vincent Tan. I think that is not fair on your players.
I think this is quite funny actually as well. And in
before and after the game, assault Vincent Tan. Like, assault them by wanting them out, right? I'm not saying physically hurt them. I'm saying that's a bad idea. But, like, assault the masses.
Anyway.
Yeah, but assault the masses of protesting, boycott, all that shit then. But for 90 minutes in a fucking game, back your fucking team.
I know.
Because like, I think you've got to. I think your players are. I don't think there's one player in your team that's not a purple patch player. I think all your players are purple patch or confidence reliant, and you can tell by if they haven't got the fans on side, even for a whole half, it goes right down. And we saw against QPR as well. It just went straight down.
Right.
That's my personal opinion. I'm not saying like you should give up on them straight away, but I think when it comes to match day squads, I think your fans really need to get a grip towards your players. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, any Cardiff fan can honestly disagree with me, and that's fine. But I just look at it, I'm thinking, you all seem to think your players are the enemy. Your players are representing you. Support them. Go against your ownership. Don't take out the players. It's not their fault. Especially if they're winning at half time. Why would you boost players at half time if you're winning games?
I'll give you the reasons for that. I put it in the last vlog, and you all think that this is absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm.
They were booing because we were holding possession and because we were keeping the ball. Because I don't know what it is with our fan base. We do not like possession football.
But what if you're actually controlling?
If we're not having 20 million shots, the fans will just completely throw a fit. And you'll see that on any one of my vlogs. You will just see quite a lot of chance, and then you'll just see random booing and shouting.
Yeah, but I'm thinking if you're so far ahead and you're towards the end of the half, I would keep the ball. If it's throughout the whole game, then I understand that. But if it's towards the end of a half and you're winning, and you're in firm control,
exactly.
I would keep the ball because the opponent can't do that. Just pass it around them, mug them off. Nothing wrong with that. Good change by Wolves as well here. Sarabia coming off for Hwang Hee-chan. It's a good move by Gary O'Neill. Good move by him. But yeah, that's just what I'm thinking. I'm like, before games, after games, you can go after Vincent Tan. But during a game, you like, however many fans go to Cardiff, you've got to get behind those players. I don't think you can name a single player in your team that isn't a purple patch player. I don't think you can. And that's scary. I was going to say, but there's one thing we haven't done on this show today. It's quite weird. We haven't verbally bashed his club as well, even though I said they draw 1-1.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we totally neglected this man's team that were a bunch of pussies against Liverpool.
And I think he's just disappeared just in time. Look at that beautiful face that's frozen.
There we go. we haven't verbally abused his club. It feels good that we can't abuse my club because my club are still playing, although we're still 0-0. But I'm going to say this now. You weren't good against Liverpool.
No,
you'll think the opposite, but I don't think you were that good. I think the game was quite bland.
I think the game was that open that both teams looked better than they probably should have. I think that's probably the best way I would say. Chelsea were like, for example, it was an open game.
A Wales mouth is more open than that game.
Yeah,
every game was not open.
It was open. Every time both teams went forward, they would look like they were going to score.
Every time both teams went forward, I was like,
both teams didn't have a CDM. Both teams didn't have a midfield.
No. You cannot use that. No CDM excuse. You can't use that. You cannot use that. No. You cannot ever again use that no CDM excuse. You can no longer use that excuse because you've signed midfielders for every fucking position that you cannot use the no CDM excuse.
We're signing Lafia and Casado, but
like I can make up until last year, I could make the no CDM excuse for my club when we were being overrun in midfield because Fred and McTominay are playing as one position that they can't do properly.
Conor Gallagher and Enzo Fernandez. Enzo's a good player, but he's not a CDM, and Conor Gallagher is definitely not a CDM. Yeah, probably not.
Gallagher played well, to be fair, against Liverpool. Gallagher played well, which quite scared me. But you were not good. I don't think either team were that good. I mean, yeah, it was a 1-1 draw, but I looked at it. I watched the highlights after watching the game. I went back and rewatched the game, and I watched the highlights again. I was not impressed with either team. I wasn't. The only player I was actually impressed with for the whole 90 minutes was that Jackson boy. I thought he was absolutely superb. But Disasi was okay. But see the rest of your team. I wasn't overly impressed. I think Thiago Silva was shown why he kept, like, you've got nothing beside him apart from Disasi. I think Reece James, I'm not sure if he's there yet in full, but he's a good player. Cucurella's finished.
Why are you saying
He is finished.
he didn't play? Why are you bringing him up?
Because he's finished. Because he's finished. The reason I'm bringing him up is he's finished. And if you lose Ben Chilwell, I'm bringing him up because I'm getting to my point. He is finished, and if you lose Chilwell, you've got nothing at left back.
Lewis Colwell will play there instead.
Why? Why? Why would you do that to the kids? That's bullying. You can't play left back.
He can. He played left back in the academy, and he played left back for Brighton a few times last season.
That was a few times.
He can play there. He's a left-sided centre back, so he can play a defensive left back.
Fucking.
To be fair, though, a left-sided centre back is completely different from playing like a left back or a left wing back role.
Nathan will agree with this comment. Patterson might have been a striker at Cardiff, but he should be playing as a striker in general when he's a fucking fullback.
Yeah, but then again, he can't exactly play as a fullback because he can't defend.
Exactly. He should have been back in the slums. But in general, I'm sorry, but I look at your team and you have spent great. You have brought in some good quality players, right? You're building something clear as obvious, right? But I'm saying this in the simplest of, like, I'm still expecting you to do better. You have got more holes in your team still to fix by putting players into a solid team that you're going to build with. You've still got more holes in your team than a shot through window after an AK-47 has blasted it. You still have more holes in it. I'm thinking you still need to get that sorted. I still think you need to get that sorted. Liverpool, we could see Liverpool's problems immediately, right? Oh, we're bringing on Eriksen and Sancho. I actually like this. That's two good changes. I wonder who we're taking off. I'll make my point in a second. You're saying
about Chelsea. I've got Chelsea finishing outside the top. I've got Chelsea finishing sixth for a reason, because I know the inexperience. I know the inexperience and the holes in the team is going to.
Yeah, I actually rate these changes by the manager. He's taking off Mount and Garnacho, and he's putting on Sancho and Eriksen, staying the same system, but he's putting them actually like that. He might put Sancho through the middle, actually. Yeah, I like that by the manager. What I was saying there about Liverpool, right, is Liverpool's issues we've known all summer, right? Liverpool's issues have been there, and yeah, they've made signings, but they've not yet fixed their issues. What you've done is still sign players, young players that are going to be in your team for so many years to come, which is great, good, clever. I don't disagree with that. But you're still not going to fix your problems until you actually go, this is our system. Because I looked at your system at the weekend, and yes, I agree with Julio's comment about Poch negating Salah, and I said that Pochettino would do that really well. That's why I knew you were getting a draw. But in hindsight, your system, I still think you need to be mindful about how you're going to play. If you're going to play as a back four, you cannot play as a 4-3-3. And if you're going to play with a back three, you must play with a number 10 that actually is a number 10. I'm looking at it and I still think there is so many positives to this Chelsea team that the more positives I can name, 3 or 4 negatives still appear. You know what I mean?
We've still got Njoku to play as well, because he got extremely unfortunate with his knee injury in pre-season. He'll come into this team. But
that's in Nkunku. That's totally different. I mean what you've got right now. So let's remove Nkunku from the situation. I mean what you've got right now is big money signings that have not worked.
everyone knows Chelsea are everyone knows Chelsea are in a rebuilding stage. No one's expecting anything big of Chelsea this season. That's why the majority of people have Chelsea finishing outside the top four. And the thing is, because of the new UEFA rules, if Chelsea finish fifth, they still get Champions League football because we're one of the higher ranked teams in UEFA's rank. So if we finish fifth, we still get Champions League football this season. So it's not like we have to finish in the top four to be successful. We can still finish fifth, which would still be a successful season for us because we know the issues we have.
But doesn't that not sound like a lazy? But doesn't that not sound like a lazy argument though? That if you just finish fifth, it's deemed a successful season. I personally think now, and I'm saying this in honesty,
Chelsea fans agree with that because you think about all the players that we subbed on. It was a 19-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 20-year-old, and another 19-year-old. The team is extremely inexperienced, and that inexperience will cost us more times than I'll win us games this season.
I'm saying this now, and I'm being deadly honest with you, right? See, I said that you would finish here or there. Like my prediction, I think I had you fifth because of that funding of that UEFA-based rule for the Champions League. The amount of money you've spent is taken away. Oh, that was wasteful. The amount of money you've spent this summer alone back to what you've already spent, any reasonable expectation or reasonable prediction or target that Chelsea fans had means absolutely nothing. Your reasonable expectations are about as viable as Arsenal last year being in a conversation of winning the league. 93% doesn't mean conversation. 93% bottling it means you've got nout. I'm looking at your reasonable expectations, and I know you've been consistent with yours the whole way through, and that's completely fine. But you are going to get comment after 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 comment. Online fans, pundits, the lot are going to come at Chelsea in the circumstance saying you spent all this money, and if you finish outside the top four and you don't even win a single trophy, there's going to be a lot of questions. Well, Pochettino has to win one. Like, in my opinion, he has, and I'll say the same for Chelsea. I'll say the same for Chelsea as I will for Arsenal. The same for us, Liverpool, Man City, even Aston Villa. Aston Villa have got to win the Conference League because they've spent big.
Mm-hmm.
All that money spent, our reasonable expectation or prediction is gone. It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. If you'd spent 200 million, for example, then I'd have been little less on you guys compared to other clubs. But you went and attacked that transfer window. You attacked it, and brilliantly. I'm not going to deny that. You attacked it brilliantly. But you attacked it that much, with all that money spent, that reasonable is dead in the water. Sorry, man, but that's just what I think.
I can see where you're coming from, but at the same time, Chelsea had to spend big money because they couldn't keep all the players that we have sold. At the end of the day, all the players that we've sold and the players that we've bought, we've still, we've made more money from players that we've sold than money that was spent on new players.
You have.
And at the end of the day, when you're rebuilding at the size of Chelsea club, you have to pay money to get big, the big players in. They paid big money for Enzo Fernandez back in January because they knew that everyone would be going after him during the summer, so they paid the release clause. They got him here. They got him. That was a smart part of business. Caicedo, a little bit fortunate that he didn't want to go to Liverpool. To be fair, that's just pure luck.
See. You made a great comparison.
That's pure lunacy.
You made a great comparison there, right? Enzo Fernandez is a World Cup winner. So I understand, obviously, the money is mental, but I understand the signing, right? He's a World Cup winner. He was the young player of the tournament as well, I believe. It was him or Alvarez, young player of the tournament. But Caicedo isn't even worth 60, in my opinion. You literally, and nobody can argue with me on this one, you literally got done what we got with Harry Maguire from Leicester. And I'm actually going to say this now, you got worse. You got worse.
I went on record and said that I actually, when Caicedo was going to go to Liverpool before he decided not to, I was actually happy about it because I was like, paying this amount of money for Caicedo was ridiculous. And I'm not going to change my subject about it. I'll see how it turns. But
I know you won't. I know you won't, and I'll credit you for that.
I have a gut feeling Caicedo will be a complete waste of money. I just don't think he'll turn out to be the player that we think he will, especially for that.
I think he'll be good for you. I think he'll be good for you, but you can't. There's no way you can justify 150 million. There's just no way.
I'll go record to say that I think Latvia will do better than Caicedo this season.
I think Latvia will be brilliant for you. I think Caicedo will be a good player. I think he will. I'm not saying he won't, but there's no way he's 150 million. I don't know how Brighton. Oh, we just scored. I fucking missed it. Varane just scored our first goal of the season. I fucking missed it.
Beautiful.
That's because I've got my fucking TV on mute. Respect our podcast, of course. I've got our TV on mute. I just want to see this goal again. With 50 minutes to go, we finally scored. Took us long enough.
Is that an own goal or a Varane goal?
I'm not sure.
It looked like an own goal there from that angle.
No, it's definitely Varane. It's definitely Varane.
Anyway, we're all going to wrap it up there because this show has gone on for 2 hours and
nearly 2 hours. But it was a lovely headed goal. Who got the assist?
Wan-Bissaka assist.
Nice.
Everyone, thank you very much for getting involved in the chat. Thank you, Julio, for being in the chat. Julio's got 1 more week away from being here in person before he's back with us. I'm sure we'll have some strong words for him when he does return in person. Helly,
yes, I will. You're getting fined.
And thank you so much for getting involved into the chat. Thank you to Reese and Nathan, as always, for their very detailed, very debateful podcast, which I do like. Again, agreements and disagreements. That's what we love about this show. Any final words for yourself, Nathan? Is there a midweek game for Cardiff?
No midweek game. However, I will go on.
I've just seen he's actually brought on Palestri. I rate that. That's good. That's another good change by the manager. Top billing for me tonight.
But yeah, I was saying no midweek fixture for us this weekend. However, I will be going to Cape Town on Saturday, which means we're going to get absolutely destroyed. So make sure to watch out for that video because I'm sure that's going to be entertaining.
And Reece, any final words from yourself?
First of all, thank you, Harry Kane, for taking Spurs to Bayern Munich because I said that Leipzig were going to beat Bayern anyway. But to beat them 3-0 before he even got on the field makes me happy. Additionally, Leipzig are going to win the Bundesliga. I'm happy with that. Great show tonight. Really enjoyed it.
Brilliant.
Everyone in the live chat, of course, thank you so much for tuning in. And as we're at it, United are going to win as well. So happy days, happy days, happy days. And also, I said as well, Rangers would respond. Michael Beale still has to pass the Reece test, but still got 2 strong results back to back. Good show. Good week, and roll on next for another banger. We'll see how we get on next week as well. Thanks, everybody.
So everyone, thank you very much for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe, share the podcast. We'll see you next Monday night. Same place, same people, and we'll see what there is to talk about then. Take care, guys. Goodbye for now.